perfection of our lifetime, or the delight of staying up late and seeing the stars at night, and the escape, the truth, the vocabulary of that encounter with the starlight, being awake before everyone else, waking up first on Christmas morning. That's what I'm talking about with you, Trey Parker. I'm talking about something that is advanced. I'm talking about something that people will be into. I'm talking about cutting edge frontline stuff. And that's why it's relevant. I mean, I get so excited when I perform in this way. And I'm working with a visionary, Trey Parker and Matt Stone and South Park Studios, because they are like a very rare and one of kind specimen. Even Lisa Simpson had outlined that Trey Parker is a very unusual performer for the platform of America. And so, because I am professionally driven, I'm very excited about my career, about what I have to present to America, and what sort of things that I see are possible in transformation, in the act of overhauling the American engine. I'm extremely dedicated to that. And so I want to just make sure that we're on the same page about why this is exciting and the agreement that we're going to perform with the right relationship. Okay, because the excitement here and the obsession is that we're up, past our bedtime, or we're the ones who are before the curl. And that's a very singular account. You can't rely on like a group, uh, energy to give you the stamina to produce the green wolf. It's just like, whoa, I'm just completely alone in this. But maybe you're just feeling a part of what the green wolf felt when he's here presenting his case to transform America. And that's all part of the story and the American legend that is the Pantray solution. What we're talking about is producing the green wolf. And what the green wolf does on his own is he begins this miraculous ascension, and he gets people together, he gets them excited. And these films I'm talking about making, they're a combination of different uh, perfect. Let me just try to explain it this way. Remember, Trey, when I was talking about the giant robot, when we go into it and we think about, okay, cracking open the dollar, immediately we get this sort of cold feet feeling about like, oh, government control, or how much, or what? Or like, isn't it that what we have right now is the image of freedom and don't tamper with it? So both of these things are like, it's like advanced human issues. Humanity has never faced this issue. We need a resource and an advanced environmentalist concept reaching out into the satellites, being like, well, what are we going to do with all the satellite debris? I mean, these people, what we're dealing with is people who their intelligence is um, in terms of nature. These kids are putting on the gauntlet, saying, protect our world. We demand climate change. And that's powerful source code language, when you're talking about rocks and fire and water. There's some very powerful energy that the earth absolutely runs along, but it's sort of like the secret language. What I'm trying to say is these people who are causing deforestation, it's basically that their intelligence is full blown retarded. You understand? So we have dangerous people who are saying, hey, don't blame me, it's the money and it's capitalism. And so we do these things. What I'm trying to say is like from the perspective of these children and perspective of me, people who do this sort of crime to nature, basically trees is like the soul of air. So it's like, oh, what? You're not planning on breathing in the future? It's like female karma, which is longer term, like, oh, what? You didn't treat me correctly? Well, you're not going to survive, the vastness of eternity. And, that's the sort of like judgment of eggs. And there's a subtle justice over time, but it's very extreme. So what I'm talking about is a type of escalation, which is it's immaculate. It'd be on the positive side of egg karma. It'd be like women being like, "These guys are so cool. They're doing it. They're doing it. They're doing it. They're so cool. They're the ones that are the future. These guys are the future." Okay, so it's good on that, but it's also good with the trees and the rocks and all of those other things. So what I'm talking about is extremely powerful. And some people would see it from the side and not be invested and call it obsession. But they just don't understand about how America as a whole and humanity as a whole, they do have like the speech impediment where they're like immature about larger things. Like, well, you understand that air pollution is going to affect all the animals and all the children, all the trees. And these people are like, well, who's really doing that? Don't begrudge, capitalism and democracy. Don't be like, whoa, and I'm like, well, I've, I am an American through and through. And I felt a long time this sort of disconnect between who I am and what it is that the government and the the little plan of money all around me. And there is a problem with money. It is it anyway. The thing is when we go into talking about that, and I'm talking about overhauling the dollar, Trey would say, "Yeah, but how far, well, that's exactly it. And that's why they need the Green Wolf. That's why they need a leader. That's why they need a powerful person who is there actually controlling the arms of the robot. And see, he only goes so far. Okay, because that's the thing. That's exactly the rule. And that's exactly why other countries might theoretically become nervous or involved or upset when even the candidate is talking about like, oh, changing the way that the dollar works. It's not because they're against the cure or the good idea I'm talking about. It's that they're saying, oh, like no one has the enough self-control to wield that robot, and they just go bum 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 until what? Until the whole thing is going to break down because our oh what it's because you guys aren't advanced with what you're doing and you're jealous about America actually being the stallion that we've always known America to be. Like what? They're sitting on their slags, they're sitting on their hands, they're going through parliament, and then this guy comes out and he's talking about changing money, and they're like, oh, issue, oh, and like make it into an international thing, like, oh, America, I mean, like, okay, what I'm trying to say is their point would be like, well, who would have enough control, you see, to stop at a certain point? Because that's the thing, though. You don't want to liquidate the ideals of the middle class. You don't want to strip the creative value of the poor, and you don't want to uh, take away the things that for the wealthy that they are like, oh wait, I like the way it is. I'm able to get the stuff that I need. Well, what I talked, never mind. I've been thinking a lot about the mortal clip. I mean, we're alive for one lifetime, buddy. Really, you're gonna be thinking about like, well, I'm able to get food and medicine. Maybe, you know, I mean, seriously, that if you're in a good position, then the opportunity for you is to be on the side of these kids protesting for climate change and it's the opportunity for you to be progressive like this. Okay, we're not seeing the voice of a progressive change in these other candidates. Pan is an authentic and unheard voice. Okay, it's an important voice. So but what's exciting about I come out here and I've been meditating and I'm thinking about where Trey is about this idea. And so the signs, like there were like bad signs, and then I was just like, what? And then I was thinking like, well, why do you keep looking for signs if nothing's changed? Why don't you try listening? And I said, all right. So I went over and I went to Twitter and I actually checked out what, you know, South Park has been posting, and they're talking about the New York convention and how like that's going on. And I was like, huh, that's awesome because what I saw in it is like, oh, I think Trey and Matt really do have a heart for social activities. Like they want to have a booth where people can play a game or at least, put some activity there, even if it's just a beanbag toss or something, That's great. And but awesome puzzles and stuff. So like I think that's really on their heart about that type of interaction. So when I'm here and I'm talking about the Sons of South Park as a group and that they'd have their own location and they'd have their own thing and the Ware buildings that I'm talking about is leading up to a grouping which would cause um like an actual resort where people have to book it in advance to get in there, and it's sort of like a camp. But it's a little different. But yeah, like I think that this is like Trey's like, oh, this is awesome. It's so next level, and I think that if we have like an adjunct working with Pan, just someone. Oil between the gears, this can mesh together. We just need to make it always very clear, very open, understood about what's happening and what they're doing with every little piece. But see how this just moved together. It's just about raising up America. And so I was excited by the post, and they're saying our booth at there, and but I'm thinking like, oh, Trey has his entire engine turbine. He's in the middle of his season right now, right? So he's like, oh, I can do stuff, and it's like, what I'm saying is like, he's like, oh, we have a booth and we want to do that, and it's sort of this thing, and what I'm saying is like, don't you see how like the Green Wolf robot, like basically Trey is in a position where he can sit down and write a script, and which works with my water wheel mill, with Millie of the Attic, and Pan building his Green Wolf robot, and the Halloween twins in the basement. And I've been thinking a lot more about them, and I want to talk about that. I'm also here to fight for the Ware buildings. Okay, because what I was sensing in the spirit was I was like, Trey really cares about you, and he thinks that you're a very good entertainer or whatever. Like you have a lot to say, and I know that you know how to use this equipment, and we'd like to get you into a position of doing that. But I made it clear in my previous recording. I'm like, the Ware buildings are is a significant investment. It's expensive, and I understand that. And so, like, and Trey's like, well, you have to be the muscle and the backbone behind that. So I'm here to do that, and I'm here to fight for that. Okay, let me just say, like, I honestly feel like this recording is a little bit haggard. So let's just sort of bring a clarity to it, okay? Let's armor up from within. We put on our thinking caps, all right? Because, this morning I was checking out, the Brexit news, and I'm listening to politicians in England. And then I'm going over and I'm watching, the latest news about the Hong Kong protest. And I mean, it's amazing. They want to take away the masks, and it's just like that. It's so weird because that's so traditional for them. With their dedication to public transit brought the rise of the fashion for, you know, the mask. Um, it's just awful that the government's like, oh, I know, I'll take away your mask so that our cameras can take a picture of you, and then you won't be rioting or whatever. That doesn't even make sense. I mean, it's just so twisted. But anyway, in a larger way, I'm also part of this feeling and energy of the world. And so I'm reaching over here I'm just saying like that's why I feel like a little bit scattered, and it's because I'm like, oh gosh, oh wait, Trey's into this. All right. And then I brought up some signs and I saw it, and I saw an image of my castle, is sort of what I call it. The Ware buildings. It's more like this old castle that I want to refurbish, and it's gonna be magical for everyone, but just also really powerful. And there are different spots and locations in the building where they're dedicated to talking about a certain issue. about climate change and about the political spectrum, how to defeat the Electoral College. And a lot of that is on me and my performance of films, because guess what? We are a nation of people in communication age. They're watching the TV, they're willing to do that. Okay, but when it comes time to like making political change, there's like this, people go out in droves, tens of thousands of people, come on, man, are out there protesting. And this is the vote, this is their contest of like, this is the best I can do. All right. And so I get it. I'm like, okay, you guys are stricken with your job, your home, your rent, you're doing this thing, you're working hard, okay. I do believe in certain things like universal basic income. All right, that's good for the basic economy, just like turning around the wheels of, restaurants and, uh, food moving around and basic Christmas stuff where people buy a little bit and they enjoy it and it moves around. That's that economy that boils on the bottom. The wealthy and the middle class, they don't care about all that junky stuff, but it's hard for me to explain. This is painful. It's also like the basic economy, and that makes that, you know, it's basically like the job of the poor to like go around and do that and be like, oh, it's cool, and they're like playing their songs and stuff, and just enjoying it. But then like the middle class is like, oh, they have some extra time, they're able to read like what is the bestseller of the year, and they're like staying in touch with stuff, and they're doing important things, holding social gatherings, drinking tall glasses of wine, and they've got their paintings, and they're oh, so and so painted this. Oh, what do you think about that? Well, it reminiscent of this and that. That's all really important stuff for the mind. All right, beyond that is the super wealthy. And what I'm seeing, like, I don't even want to talk about it because we're getting into a space where trade be like, well, I can't agree with what you're saying about that because that's all kind of really weird stuff. But what I'm trying to say is like, I see a way of overhauling the American dollar in such a way that it mobilizes the wealthy into a place where they're like moving and popping and making cool stuff happen. Right now, honestly, I don't hear from them. I don't hear like a buzzing, active, wealthy community. And I think that it's fermenting. All of society is fermenting in such a way where it starts to buckle, and then the entertainment industry is like, who is being wagged by this like consumer friendly, you know um scripting of this is how to reach the poor masses and stuff. It's like it's weird, and then it's like it changes things. So anyway, what I've found is that it seems like there's divine depression for the wealthy and for some of the middle class who are kind of like like having this dysphoric, detached feeling. Whereas what I'm trying to say is like, these kids are putting on the gauntlet and they're fighting for climate change. They're absolutely right, because the curse words of like, oh, there's something wrong is in the burning of the oil. And literally, that's a world zombie. That's how that's how a garden plays with its residents. Okay. So if these kids are speaking the words, and if they actually pick up the garbage, if they actually break that thing and cause climate change, and we get away from bad, they cause the good climate change. Okay, we're going back into a healthy stasis. So there's the bad climate change, but we want to change it back to healthy, and that's sort of not something that adults in the spectrum of communication are even saying. It's always like climate change means things are getting worse. Well, that's actually not true, but the kids are correct that we need to, you know, finish the business of getting aggressive and just knock that block off, just execute it. Okay, so they're right, and they're talking a very sharp language, and for us to heed it is correct. I see like a cyclone of where the communication news industry is being devastated by the way that they react to the kids performing the climate change. But okay, so Trey Parker is a solo uh, visionary style. I'm not saying Trey Parker is a solo visionary style because he would say, no, stop, that's not true. Like all my friends and all this, it's not that way. Look, I'm not here to try to say what Trey is or how it is or all that crap. Trey says what Trey is, right? So just relax. What I'm trying to say is that The Simpsons have all these different writers, all these different animators. It's animated in another country, over here. But The Simpsons is the best we got. I mean, because it does the right thing that a cartoon should. I mean, it's exactly what a cartoon should do anyway. But also, I was thinking like, oh, The Simpsons are like already golden. And I was seeing like this life connection about like how my idea about the golden statues is actually like historical. This is like, but like I said, we're the first ones awake before Christmas Day, and so we're like, oh, it's really kind of exciting and mysterious, and it really is. So we, put little keepsake or whatever. We perfect the moment. We perfect it. We plant all the things that we need. Like fruit-bearing trees, so that later we have that stuff. All right. So I was looking around and I checked in with on Twitter, and I was like, okay, that's how he's feeling right now. And then I go over here and I go over there, and I saw this different picture where it was about Millie, and Millie was in the images saying like, "All right, well, Trey wants to support us, but he is actually interested in having us on South Park." And like, I was like, "Really?" And then like, and then there's this other picture of the rain falling on an image of an old castle, and I was like, "Oh, I'm like having this I'm on like the threshold of like, okay, if you fight for the Ware buildings, we might even be able to get in there. And Trey might actually fly us out, have us over. Because it was, so like on Twitter, Trey was saying like, okay, it's the last day that you could go and see us at the New York Comic Con. And I was almost like, tomorrow's Monday. I was like, oh, Sunday. So like today is like the last day I can present my idea with Trey, and he's gonna go on Monday and go and say like, and he might actually so I'm here to present my idea about the Halloween uh, hour-long special and I want to talk about the narrative and stuff, but I really wanted to talk more about the Halloween twins and their involvement in what the Halloween special is about. And we want to make it, we'll do it the right way because, of course, they were simply born on Halloween Day. It's their birthday. Uh, uh, so but they are the Vampire King and the Demon King. So there's sort of this other feeling about it. But what I'm trying to say is like I'm really interested to see like what would Stan Marsh and Eric Cartman, what kind of you know amazing fiascos would they invent on Halloween Day? Okay, so it's almost like a little bit older. Like we last Halloween, we were talking about, this urgency to get more candy than anyone else, even if we die. It's just hilarious, man. It's such a good feeling. And this is a different feeling that's sort of more creative. It's like, oh, the boys go into a spooky, you know, house and they discover this frightening green wolf robot. And that's this feeling of like a gentle, adventure process that is important part of like on Halloween, kids might go to a graveyard or visit a spooky house or something. Um, talking about like putting a vignette on the cherubs of Halloween, like this worship of candy, dressing up, maybe I want to stay away from the whole because I personally never did like pranks like TP a house or egg a house. In my mind, that just seems like way too extreme, honestly. And I don't understand how it's like amusing. I think it's an older rift from like in the 40s or something when kids would actually break windows with a stone, and like that was for fun. But then like a more gentle like Halloween came along and made people more gentle, maybe just throw some eggs or TP. Like what is it about like neighborhood boys wanting to trash the place? Like it's not it's not part of my childhood, and I don't know where it's come from, honestly. But it's a great form of territorial communication. and about just this comfortable thing about, oh, these boys are so comfortable with you neighbors that they might even get in trouble with you and smash a window and, hey, you darn kids, come back here. Like, oh, that's how bad it got. Oh, something happened. But then, we're so what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, I wouldn't bring up themes of vandalism in this episode because I think we're more intelligent than that. And what I'm talking about is being like, okay, we're in the communication age. We want to get to a higher level of the age of life here on Earth. And I don't think that what I'm saying is too fantastic. It's just that I say it in a fantastic way. It really is relevant. It's on point. It's on time. I mean, I'm speaking, I've been speaking about the Green Wolf robot for over a year. That's been, aimed to crack that thing of what is causing this mind block where we're allowing, um, you know, bad climate change to continue. So it cuts that down, and then it just brings about a season where it's possible for us to recover from all of that. So I just want to explain something about that, and then about like, okay, honestly, once again, I feel like it's just let's just try to bring it together and breathe and armor up from within and center ourselves about what we're talking about. So this is like a huge thing. So I'm here to talk about the Halloween episode, and I want to say like, the little chi goblins of like common dispositions, they'll be like, what is it that like if you ask Trey or anyone like, what do you think Pan wants? Well, he wants to do this episode with Trey, like as far as Trey wants to hang out with him, because it's like there's several weeks there. So we'd hang out for a little while and work on some episodes, see how that goes, and then basically position for the Green Wolf robot toy. And then Pan would go back and start working on the Ware buildings, like rebuilding it, making phone calls and doing all this. And they're opening that up. And then and then it's like, oh, and then Trey and Pan are friends, and I'm just working, working, working. And at this point, and this is like 2 months of work where I've communicated and people know there's something happening. Then it's like on to tier two, where we're talking about expanding from that first building. So all of this happens only in that first building. That's why I said it's like, oh gosh, if we could purchase this building in that spot from whoever owns it, then it's like then all of a sudden we have the potential of purchasing all of that space and even those a couple buildings that are in operation right now, but they obviously um they're just by the labels of like what store is occupying that, and I've been through there. It's not like they're would be unwilling to sell. We would just have to have like towards the end of tier two, we'd have to have enough like evidence about what kind of foot traffic we're expecting, how much space we're going to need for this operation, because I am talking about building like a total engine spec where we're talking about solutions for all of these problems, and with groups who sincerely meditate it, work on it, and communicate on it. There's a blog, they're showing the progress and everything. So different departments, and I think that the larger the way I see it, the larger thing is like I want to do something that's never been done before, and that's actually what is needed to break this ice, right? So that's why it's exciting. Anyway, like for me, I'd be all like, okay, make sure they have a cafeteria. We need to make sure that that's happening. Then they have like a safe place to sleep, like but one of these like Japanese capsule beds, and they get into a situation where they're having a really intense, because I mean that's the payment. It's like you take care of them, then they do the work. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, and because they'll go into a really intense place where they get to know their group of friends and they're working hard on it to, and then we edit it down and then we have like a lot of footage to work with. But what we're trying to communicate is like, and show that we're not just a bunch of kids protesting for climate change, but that the adults respond to when the children, what the kids are saying. And absolutely, and that's powerful and it's good. And so there's just this sort of laziness and like, oh, it is the way it is. And we just have to break out of that. And as communication artists, that's what we do. So that's why I'm talking to Trey Parker, and that's why it's important. All right. But so what I'm saying is like in my mind, I'm just like, oh, just make sure that they're safe and this and that, and then I'd kind of like turn my back a little bit, and give them like some guidelines, but seriously, just let them have a living experience where they're like, oh, I'm in like this cool, like old, 1900s brick factory, and you know, I'm like discovering something, and it's my life, and they'll have the enormous mantle of John Lennon, man, when where they're just like, oh, and they're just like completely angry about the climate problem, and they're like, this has to end. Man, get that on film. Okay, and I understand that, but I also understand myself as the Green Wolf. Like I am a very uh serious person, a very driven and focused person. And I'm like, you see that? See how bright that is? Let's go in that direction. And then people will be like, oh, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. And then we'd get the team to cover that and we'd take care of it. Okay, so I'm campaigning all right now. I've been working to build the confidence in my conjecture, in my identity about being president, and I've grown a lot over the past year, but it's also about, do people understand what I'm saying? And that's what has been changing from when I started working with Trey to now. It's like I feel that like the Trey and the people meditating with me understand what I'm saying. It's because it's like if I go into a place where I'm like, okay, we need to change money, we need to reconfigure these things, and then the reaction is like people will start going, oh, is that communism? Oh, brr, brr." Like what? How is that anything? I mean, I'm like, yeah, you guys, the idea is that you have to control the robot only so far. You can't take it beyond those things, or else it liquidates the rights of the wealthy, the middle class, or the poor. It's common sense. It's common sense to me. But these sorts of common sense things would be misplaced, like an argument about, like, well, we want to keep inflation down. So therefore, we need to be careful about, you know, changing the definition of money. All right, Mr. Smarty Pants, but what you don't understand is that that idea about keeping the inflation down has been stolen and absconded onto an intercontinental concept about the value of dollars. Okay, so it's the same thing, because they're like that would be their first concern. They're like, you're going to disrupt the inflation ratio and the value of dollars, globally. And it's like, no, it's not going to do that if you just be intelligent. I'm saying it's like I'm talking to like cavemen, because it's like we're past the communication age. Now we need to go oomph and go into a technological age, because the way that money is behaving is not treating the people properly. It's broken, and we're destroying our own garden, so we're self-destructive. Okay, you guys are, it's like this insane thing where people are executing themselves. And it's not appropriate for the children. And the children are demanding a brighter future and a different leader. And so that's the Green Wolf. And so the type of power I will be wielding and amassing in the second tier of what I'm doing at the Ware buildings is when we would understand, oh, other people are willing to try really hard for climate change. Okay, but right now we're all thinking, oh, this won't make back our investment. It's a lot of work. And Trey's like, man, I'm not that person. I've been working about your script. I understand. And what I was trying to say to Trey is like, Trey, see how you have a full engine? And I'm saying like you could just drop the hat and say, all right, we're gonna make this Green Wolf robot and like this, and they'll go, okay, yeah, boss, blah, blah, blah. And then because you already have the full uh, entropy of hundreds of thousands of people who would go like, "Da-da, da-da, da-da," and then all of a sudden that Green Wolf robot is ready to be manufactured. And like what I'm talking about, because I'm working on the energy and stuff about my entire campaign to the 2020 and what that feels like and stuff. And I've been talking about chi and stuff like how you need like a group of people. And it's amazing because it's like what Trey Parker has is this whole engine where it's like his name is on it. Trey Parker says, "You guys make this Green Wolf robot for me." All of a sudden, there's chi level there, and they're like, "Yeah, oh, this is part of my job. I get paid to do this." Da, 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 da," and it gets done like boom. All right, so that's what I'm trying to explain is that like I'm empathizing and I'm trying to work with the genius. Like Trey Parker is a singularity in the society block of America. Like there's not some other like one hat company. Right? It's all getting divided by, the circumstance or whatever. All right, so it's completely natural for me to be talking to South Park. And because their label, I was saying like The Simpsons is like the perfect form of what a cartoon should be or would be or could be or whatever. It's like with South Park, it's perfectly the coupling of a common sense uh, informant like William Shakespeare for modern day times. Like Trey Parker is like a parent of American society and helps people's intuitions to understand where, like, what's going on and stuff, or like how to shoot from your hip. And those are the things that they don't teach in school, but is actually the education. Right. So, what I think is that Trey is actually a very spiritual, energetic person, and he feels it seems like Trey's a little upset about this whole thing where he's like, with me, but I'm trying to say, like, I'm not holding up any amount of negative stuff. I'm saying green light, let's go. Let's produce the green wolf. It's cool. All right, so let's look at some images, take a little break from this thing, and then again, I'm just going to go over the basic thing about the uh the Halloween special, and I want to talk a little bit more about like what I was trying to say is like the Halloween twins in my heart is like they're sort of like, oh, I'm kind of excited to hang out with Stan in the cartoon and be like, and maybe like Stan has an idea about something fun they could do because they go first. It's like I was saying, like they could sneak into this house 'cause it's all lit up and it's all flashy, and they're like, "What?" And they see this giant green robot, but that's how they meet the Halloween twins. And then after that, maybe Stan and Kyle and Kenny and Eric, they all take these guys to some other Halloween activity uh, by chance more than anything, not really a phone call. Like they met up and continued doing what they were doing or something. Um, but as part as like an hour-long thing, you understand it's like it's very open about what could happen there. But just a lot of strength and a lot of pillars about like, whoa, the Green Wolf robot necessitates a plot. I mean, what with Greta and these kids striking for climate change, it's very powerful for us to address that. And so here's a Green Wolf robot. Trey, in his mind, these kids start protesting. It got really big a couple months ago. And Trey's like, "Hey, I've been talking to a guy who's got a Green Wolf robot designed to attack and the very strands, the threads that are causing bad climate change, and we have to change our language and break that." And then, okay, so but if it happens visually on South Park, this is like that's exactly how it works from going from communication age into technological age. And it would be that Green Wolf robot doing it through the cycles of the visual glory and the whole Halloween tradition, getting in a costume, and then the feeling and the ritual with the toys. Just that feeling of, you whether they order it online or got to collect them all and piece it together. What's great about the Green Wolf robot? It's not just, oh, you got to get them all and then piece it together. It's interactive, but on a level where people are being respected and they're being heard. Okay, where it's like the Green Wolf robot, basically, it's designed like it needs your perfect idea. and to activate because that's the story of the Green Wolf robot. We learn it from that episode, and then when people have it, they understand. They're like, okay, and some people are really serious, and they're like, oh, they think about it for a long time, and they're working on this tiny little mandala or whatever they're meditating on, and then they put it all together, and then it's the last piece that goes in, and then his eyes open up and he howls, and maybe we can do something. We can talk about it. Like, is there a game that goes on after that? It's all this amazing open concept because we want to protect the primary function, but like, what does it continue to be? Like a desk side lamp, like it's a comfort thing. You know, how do you recharge it? Does it have a USB or so? Um, just a lot of really exciting things there. So I really feel it, and I feel like it's almost like we feel it. I feel this Halloween special so powerfully that I think that for some people, like I said, we're like awake before everyone else, and so it's just this high energy, and it's almost like you have numbness, and you're like, oh, I can't feel my face, but I know this idea is fucking awesome. Ah! Like it's like but because that's the thing is like I understand also it's just like when you're presenting, you need to be the stamina of it. And for some people, they're like, if I leave the presentation room and I don't want to do that. I don't know. I just don't want to. Oh, it's a mystery. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is like, I, you know, because, okay, let's just fast forward 2 months. Let's say we do produce the Green Wolf robot. Okay, where is all humanity? And where are all Trace fans? They're way up here going like, oh, this is the fucking coolest thing ever. And you're here being like, oh, no, I'm not sure if people are gonna get it. Are you kidding me? You're not sensing. And so that's why I'd say, oh, watch out for that numbskull stuff. Oh, because you're not sensing reality. This is a perfect idea and it absolutely responds to the basic thing of what the kids are demanding. And it congratulates the South Park fan group and audience as being like, "Hey guys, we're totally engaged and doing the appropriate thing, responding to this Greta." Absolutely. So, um, like, what? So, okay, yeah, yeah, and that's perfect. That's brilliant. And what I was thinking, like, oh, oh yeah, like fairy tales. I was thinking, like, as if I was Hansel and she was Gretel. Like, is Trey Parker a house of candy? No, he's not. And I want to tell you guys, like me meditating with you guys and all, it's not been a treat for me. It's not like I'm like, oh, mess with Trey and then I feel good. No, I'm like really I'm like, oh, hey guys, it's all right. It's all right. Oh, look at this. Look, like like that would be bad if you guys fall into the slump and the rut of thinking that I'm after Trey's candy house. Right? I know that you guys are busy professionals. I'm talking straight sense here. Please understand. Um, anyway, that aside, sorry, I just want to make sure that that's there. Okay, so what I really wanted to talk about is the where building, and we're going to go look at the map, and then hopefully I can think of a little bit more of my excitement because my feeling, honestly, is like I'm like it's pull apart bread is perfect. Like, see how this is this, and then. But Trey would be like, well, I want to hear more about, Millie in the attic and what is her invention look like in VR and what do the Halloween twins do and you know like okay so we'll go into that but um what I'm trying to say is the reason why my presentation is perfect is because it's complete and people can't sense like oh what then people will be happy with the Green Wolf robot. Oh, it's so predictable. you know I'm saying like what's not predictable is I'm saying I'm opening it up so that Trey is able to write the script. I'm not trying to overrule whatever Trey is doing over there, you guys. Come on. So, like, it's my kind of common sense. And what you guys, I feel, have been saying is like, there's another kind of common sense. It's called, very conservative, like, be professional. If it doesn't come to you in a professional way, then it's not good. Well, I disagree with what you guys have become atrophied in your way. And the climate is harmful to children, it's polluted, and the adults are acting like retards with their consciousness. It's like the smartest thing they have to say and do is full retarded. And that's a problem. That is dangerous. But you're not acting like a professional with that has the interview. Well, you guys aren't acting like someone who has common sense and the ability to wield a telephone. You understand? You don't understand. So, what I'm talking about is way up here because Trey can pierce the veil of the entire problem, produce the green wolf, and be a superior mammalian judge over his peer group, and perform a masculine force, which is the power, like Greta, like basic stuff, like using communication to bring enlightenment. That would be profound. And that's why it's good and enticing for Trey, and why these other people don't understand what's going on because you've not been conditioned to sense for the taste of things that have actual value, but you've been honed in to have false value radar. Like you're like money, the way all these children from school happen. No, they're protesting. You don't hear from Greta? That's not real. We can't really change the government system. We can't really. Oh my God, I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. I understand it's hard. Like you have your home and you have your food and you're going in rotations. Pan is a maverick. He's a singularity. He's the kind of guy who we could fly out to California, work with him for a couple weeks, fly him back, set him up in a new place. And you understand how valuable that is as an agent, as a resource. We could hire him and put him to work. And he's talking about all these issues of overhauling the American engine. And it begins with your attitude. And because you're not understanding what this represents and what the opportunity is for Trey Parker, you've only got these very narrow vision. All right, look, that's the thing that like. I have a problem with people not understanding shit. They think it's a candy house. They think that this is like something from the internet. They're confused. This is something from virtual reality. All right, let's go look at the map. I'm sorry about that tangent there, but it's like it really has to do with like usually, I mean, you guys are in such a position where, like, if you don't want to do something, that's usually why you say no about something. And what I'm saying is that what I'm talking about is probably not going to make you feel good. I'm like, what I'm talking about is a real, actual value, and that we've not been conditioned to seek. You don't have an appetite for actually stopping the climate crisis because of an encryption on the men, and they all speak the same. Anyway, so what I'm talking about is like you'd have to have no feelings on it, but just be like, for the glory of Trey Parker's manhood, we want him to have this crown, all right? And it and it confirms the common sense value of South Park. All the people watching South Park would be like congratulate, pat themselves on the back if we talk about the Greta thing and kick its ass with the Green Wolf robot. But they need to be able to touch it. They need to be able it's tactile, right? So what I'm talking about is like literally the first tier is just me working in virtual reality in this space, knocking out some awesome films, getting my name out there, and then it spans out into this building. Of course, while I'm working in here, this building's really cheap right now, and we'll just get it ready with and do what we can with it. And then in the second tier begins to build with other people um, volunteering or becoming a character if they're right for that. And then nearing the third tier, I'm talking about buying these buildings over here, and then it's full blown. Like we would have a lot of people working here and facilitating much. It would be a lot of energy, and that's when in the third tier, I'm talking about it'd be like easily repay the investment here. What's weird here is like you see, like involving the prophecy, and I'm talking about streets here south. and then Park. So South Park, the name South Park's been broken by Main Street. I think it's Tegrity Farms. So Tegrity Farms comes along and breaks the name of South Park. It's like part of a prophecy, right? At least I'm hoping that. Um, because another translation would be like, only when South Park is broken would Trey Parker even consider this. Well, that's Tegrity Farms, right? Tegrity Farm, Tegrity Farm. Um, so okay, once again, this is all based on this map image and this Beavis and Butthead in the map. I'm sort of talking about shadows and fairy languages, stuff that people don't really talk about. All right, so that was it. And like, anyway, like in the so I was a little bit skittish at first, and then we got into a good place, and then I got weird again, and I was starting saying like, why don't you guys understand to prioritize a hidden value? You know, because what I'm talking about does satisfy your rover robot. It makes back the money. It's good for your fame. It's good for the people, good for the fan base. It's a good puzzler. All this stuff. It's got everything that you would want as a professional. And yet I continue to be treated as if I'm not being professional, which is an injury to my campaign. But it's like the struggle to take seriously these children who are wielding the authentic right of stone and fire, demanding climate change for their world, for the future. Because that's the thing about being psychic is it's more difficult to sense the future than it is to remember the past. And what it is in this now point is about controlling your hands. And the men are not controlling their hands. The men are not psychic or considering the future. I think that they have an actual physical numbskull where they can't feel the parts of themselves which are supposed to be pointed towards the future, which means that we'd get time hacked by a space ghost which is positioned against our benefit. Surprisingly, the technology and the things and themes that are to our benefit are such things as the friendly faces of South Park and The Simpsons and Batman and our cell phones and our PlayStation and our computers. Okay, that's handmade, actual grit of the earth technology, and it services us like reliable and efficiently like a pocket calculator. It's completely loyal and it understands our disposition, but there's like a larger, oh, he's wise to it now, a sort of feeling in the universe, which is from a technology ghost, which is like, oh, yeah, I'm part of the refinement, trial of the fittest here. Bullshit. Same with our money system is not proving champions. And I say that with a bitter cup because honestly, all we have is that evidence. Like Trey Parker and Matt Stone are supposed to be the champions of this grueling capitalist uh, methodal torture. Or you guys are supposed to be champs of this, and what I see is um, atrophy. And I think that you feel it in your height, your in your energy. You feel upset, and so there's some upsetting themes been going on in Integrity Farms. So what I'm saying is like being profound means, can we do this Green Wolf robot toy? Can we produce this guy? And it's not about personal feelings. I'm sorry, but what I know, like we're transitioning from a difficult and grueling race to a time when young men could look up and say, "Oh, hi, Dad. Thanks." Okay, that's what I was talking about. Is like, are you guys conscious as adults who are interested in parenting America? And I think obviously we would understand the answer is yes. So then you have to behave it with your hands and actually make the call. So what I'm saying is like I see an escapade like or an incline where my second tier I get up to a point where I can actually drop my hat and have things printed and oh, a Green Wolf robot, yeah. And then they make it and they're actually and people are like really interested in supporting it and everything. And it can even be divvied out into different groups like you guys supporting this is helping this group who are working on this issue? Like what, like how do we champion enough resources to prevent deforestation is what I was thinking, but that's so complicated. Oh my God. It's a lot of things. So, but yeah, and that's like, but that's cool. And so what I'm saying is like Trey's like, oh, I just ring my little bell and I do a little investment here. All of a sudden, there's a group of hundreds of people working on all these issues that I do care about, but aren't exactly my suit. And I'm looking, I understand what Pan's saying, these other candidates and this whole turbine of the political system is it's corrupt. Okay, it's not speaking to the heart of those who are alive and passionate and paying in and they're psychic and they're saying like, "Oh, my future's on fire." All right? So I'm just saying that the political game, all these Democrats like arguing with each other, it's like, "Whoa, they've uh filed down their teeth." They filed down. We want to say like, no, no, they sharpened their blades against each other. But I gotta say, I think they wasted their big. They're like, oh, here we are, we're the big, and they had this big thing about it, and they were arguing with each other and talking about these little piddly things, headlines. It's like they're a different form of comedian, and I've been learning about that. It's like because I'd have like a take, and I'd cancel it, and then I'd come back and reuse like an idea that I had from here. It's like you're telling jokes. But it's like, oh, remember this and that, and this and that. It's like these little sentence fragments. Whereas like a comedian is sort of like lucid and on the stage and sort of remembers something that's funny and makes the crowd laugh and it's all live like this. Like these guys, it's not funny. And also it's like they're up on a soapbox and they're like talking to a crowd of people and who are there to support them. So that's already delusional when they get up in front of the camera and they're not in front of people who support them. So they have dysphoric disconnect there. But anyway, like misinformation, and it's just because the electoral college and all these things are broken. But anyway, they have like these jokes, and they go and they say they're saying, oh, well, I'm saying this about free care and Medicare. But you said 9 years ago you were saying that that wasn't gonna and this and that. Oh, you can't quote me on that. Da, da, da. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, it's just like that's like the heart of the Democrats, and it's just got like kind of like pervert, like people are like, oh, it's like that, like it's like that, and so then in the actual political engine, I think the Democrats are also like acting like a little bit feeble. They're showing their hand a little, and and I think that Trump is continuing to prove his point about the faulty systems, and he's taking advantage of things, and he's like, oh, that won't even matter, and you know, but I think that, I'm a very smart person, and sometimes we've heard me, I think in my previous videos, talking in a way that almost made Trump look like he was relevant or something. But honestly, it's like I like what Trump is doing with the Chinese tariffs, and I think he's challenging that and being like, whoa, whoa, economics for take care of my like it's one of the only things. And to begin with, one of the first things I said to Trey is like, well, he'll do businessman stuff, and like that's all. But honestly, his stuff is awful. Like, you know, like when the White House was on strike, they got a bunch of fast food, and and he's like got some. It's just like all of his stunts are so gross. So he's like an anti-hero. All right. So what I'm talking about though is being a real hero, and I would be doing stunts, but they would just be beautiful and magnificent and reach people and give people warmth and the ability to share. It's like coordinating, and then there's like a movement of working with um, just family value style things of like exchanging and all these people worked on it and it came out like this and it's just like we're able to share in something, and that's as far as like the fiasco, but it's sort of like parenting, but it's just like a lot of things. And so I see that my opportunity about like my vision of like the Green Wolf president, like honestly, like when I get there. Like if I get sworn in, you'll probably just see me. It's I think I'd get to a place where I respect people so much that I'm like, and here's my face. I'm not hiding or you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm saying like right now, like I'm brutally honest about things. Like right now, I'm saying like, no, no, maintain the green wolf, and totally, when you get sworn in, be the green wolf. Absolutely, that is a good thing. People see it and all this. Just like in my heart, I'm like seeing myself. I'm like, I would want to be serious for them. I'd be like, here I am. It's not a joke. Okay, I'm actually, I got my hand on it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm totally being honest all the time, but it's so sharp. And that's like, oh yeah, that makes sense here. What about all of this space right here, Pan? We're talking about two things. You want to fight for the Ware buildings, and you want to talk about your Halloween special. Yes, please. And I was thinking even, the Halloween special episode could have a couple episodes that feather into it because it's like a couple weeks away, right? So, Trey, I'm giving you, oh, I don't know. And you like, I mean, yeah, I see. Okay. Well, what I'm talking about is like optimizing what we are or what we already have. Like Trey Parker already has an operating engine, and he's like, I love the idea about the Green Wolf toy. That is fucking cool. And that could work. And I love your family. I want to welcome you guys into South Park. Millie of the Attic and Halloween Twins. I've been just thinking about them. They're great. Well, we have a lot of preparation, so we are we're f- we are free to play with. We are very open and available to Trey Parker and his group, and we'll be doing because we already have the adjunct, with the South Park uh, shield um, uh, design. So we've got like an exchange. Yeah. All right. All right. I mean, I'm tempted to like destroy this, like throw away this recording and start over. But I'm asking you, Trey, to do something miraculous. I'm asking you to give me a chance. You understand? So I'm going to work really hard right now. I know I was a little bit weird and I've been weird and stuff. I'm going to clean that up. It's just like a lot of things. I feel the wings of America that supports me already. And there's like a lot of big change needs to happen. And I'm going to be sort of ridiculed on a level where, I just need to maintain focus on that brighter light. And I'm really good at doing that. But I'm also really good at seeing certain things and saying, like, oh, see, that's why that's there. But I think is that people like just live in denial and they're like, nope, you're not being professional. Like I'm able to eliminate your voucher of validity because you're driving out to California and all. Uh, okay. I'm just saying like it's scary because I'm like you guys, you can't stand. That's not terra firma. That's not bedrock. The bedrock is you see how this is an enzyme of hidden truth for Trey Parker. This would like complete his wizard crown. And they're like, what are you talking about, wizard crown? With Greta and protesting for that, and they're like, money. And I'm just like, yeah, that's like the person I've been working against my whole life. Like you're the isoflavin of the average. Citizen down. That's not how money works. Yeah, well, if you have millions of people protesting for climate change, the market is different. There's a value for this where people would buy the Green Wolf robot and they would purchase my stuff and continue to support my app and release dates because they are in the communication age, but this is exactly what they want. Not usual. Well, you guys see these other candidates, they're talking in tongues. This system is completely corrupt. You see the failing of the communication industry. Cannot make phone call. So that's the reality. Why is there only one Greta? Why is there only one? And all of these people, they don't say like, oh, now we're actually changing that thing. It's just that Greta is doing it on her own. She's the idol. Everyone can see it, and I know like a lot of people in society are like piranhas, and just cha 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 cha. And like what I do is I put my hand there and I go, "You go, Greta. You go and you do your thing, man. I know that you're changing the world. I believe in you, Greta. I protect you." And I protect her from those piranhas of like nightmares and stuff. And I know South Park does that too because we were talking about it. All right, you guys. Ah, God damn it. Like, so how do we get to a place where we're like green light? Okay. So what I'm trying to talk about is like I think that the feeling is so I was giving Trey three options. I was like, okay, on the top of it is Green Wolf robot toy and a special that is like the best holiday special ever, better than uh Charlie Brown's Christmas. Seriously. Like it's so perfect. And it could work with or without Greta making a guest appearance. That's all. I mean, like I'm saying, like that's just like would make it perfect, but it's totally operable. The real thing here is the idea of the green wolf. It only activates when it finds that perfect spark, and so that's the perfect way to understand it, how it works in South Park, but also how it works as a toy. Okay, so it's giving Trey like three-tier options here. I'm like, all right, the Halloween special, and then that and the toy, and that gives you kind of the feeling of like it's okay for us to invest like $2 million into this guy with loans and stuff because I actually don't think it would be that much. I think it'd be like half a million just to like buy the building and get really nice equipment like that and kitchen and stuff like that. But overhead for payment of like people who are doing custom things and I'm building stuff in VR like I'm holding meetings in VR and we're talking about models and stuff and all that's filmed and edited down to like a really sweet reel. It's like behind the scenes of like how they were constructing this. And I want to be on everything. Like I'm like talking about the design. I'm not like giving the design of my stuff away to people, but working with artists and all that stuff. All right, so that's the top uh, tier thing I'm talking about, and what that would cause is an overhead of a return where you're talking about putting in like a a fraction of amount and then becoming a partner to my company where boom like all this profit is landing right on South Park. It's very intelligent, but again that's not really the heart motivation because Trey already is established as a full-blown you know he has his career and his engine and everything. I'm talking about like a social movement, and it's a different engine, it's a different feeling, as it has a different interface about a transformative candidate running for president and talking about climate change, right? But again, that's tier three. Tier two is like, oh, Trey, if you're like, because I feel like you're like, well, my engine, I like the way it goes. I have all my friends, and I just really want to speak to people and feel good. And I'm like, well, could you produce this? And he's like, oh, yeah, I really like what you're doing. I'll help you. And you produce me enough that we buy the Ware building, just that first one. And we get in there and we do that, and you guys have your privacy, but we're still moving ahead tentatively with the Ware buildings and all that. And then the third and the lowest option is like, could you just help me to like get my own personal loan so that I could get into a position where I have slightly better equipment and I'm able to actually tell my story. And I feel like, it's just like Trey would be like, well, I'll see how I feel about it tomorrow. And that is legit. But so that's why I'm here kind of talking with you about it and battling those feelings because it is like you're like way up here and you're like, oh, the Green Wolf robot. Holy shit, that's so cool. It meets with Greta. Oh, no, 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 that's so good. It's all way up here and all these razzle zags and tickles and stuff. But like, if we just like, and then we go on with our day and then the next day and the next day, and then it's like, well, I did make a promise to myself. I wanted to work with this guy. But it was because you were talking about the Green Wolf robot. Yeah, well, okay, or we'll help him. We'll give him send him a relief check and he'll get moving on his stuff. Maybe we'll catch up with him later. I got to do my thing. Like that's sort of the slump of the average human. And also, when I'm talking about like common dispositions, I'm not saying you guys are this because you understand I'm not that type of psychic. I don't know what what you guys are like. I'm just saying like watch out for this blind spot, watch out for that blind spot. And like I don't know, like just talking to you guys has not been a house of candy for me. Like I haven't reached my reward. I'm not like, "Oh, I've gotten what I wanted." Like I have a friend, uh Trey Parker. Um but like I just want to embrace that this is a singular account. This has never happened before. Also technology like this. Also like I am a very powerful person, and I think Trey would be like, why I know I can recognize you're a powerful person. Why haven't you gotten married and set up and gotten into a house? I got to tell you, man, nature has been sharpening me like a shank, like a sharpened toothbrush, as she's been hiding, um and just saving up for this day, man, because it's like I know that I'm that kind of genius, and ultimately it was my goal to just get married and go that way, but like my whole life kept going like until I was just a professional research addict, and I was just like kind of like paying attention to things. Anyway, it's sort of like this plan of nature, like I am, like like uh I'm like one of those mavericks that you would see. You could like, oh, this is a person that could do anything. And I guess I'm a little bit bitter and angry because I'm like, basically, for the enzyme to put on the gauntlet of the Earth, it would mean that I'd need like an animation wizard like Trey Parker to produce me, and that would cause the full enzyme where we could actually break the bad climate change and shift over to the good climate change where we're actually recovering. Um, And because that's exactly it. See, it's a larger thing. Like, how are you going to overhaul the American engine and change the government and do all this stuff? You have to have the right ingredients. And so I'm being like like, I think some people in California would say, well, if he's so smart, money wouldn't stop him. That wouldn't stop him from getting that. Okay. But if I get my money the wrong way, when I get up to a place where I'm talking about it, it will cause this hiccup and I might actually have a disturbance. But if I go pure blood right through with Trey Parker, you get up to a place where I'm ahead of it and I'm able to explain why it would be ridiculous for other countries to claim that my idea would be the collapse of the economy. You're being completely like I can even show you exactly what you're doing to make that assumption. Like you're talking about the misplacement of the trouble of inflation, which is for the common people, but you're putting it onto an inter-country thing, which is actually part of the sickness. That's the problem. And you're saying like because of the sickness that you are trying to cure, I am against what you're doing. Whoa, man, you're viral incarnate. Like you've taken on the wrong mantle. You know, like you can figure this thing out, all right? But it's like math right now because the people are way smart and they have their touch tablets and they're tuned in, but they're being mistreated and it's not okay. We're missing, like, where's the really beautiful, I want to say, community of music? Where's the revolution of this and that? And it's like, it's almost like it starts going in the wrong way with certain ideas like why did America allow Amazon to .com, like it just goes through the roof and unchecked, and then Hulu and um, the Fire Stick and what is that? What is the other one? Netflix. And that's really that just goes way up there. But can't you see there was like a vacuum of like that internet opportunist, which is interesting. Like, okay, so like I'm 39, Trey is like 49, right? So I think you'll remember this. Trey and I, we share this sort of wisdom experience, where like internet. happen and all this starts shooting up. It's almost like, okay, so there's like a spectrum around those hot spots, and you need to like have that like a there needs to be like a level commerce that happens there that was something practical, is swept away in time, is something that we did in the in the 40s and 50s, regulating this sort of thing so that there's not monopolies, but it opens it up and then makes it fair trade, and then people are able to choose which one is best for the best price. Oh, this one's best. And and that whole cyclone is breaking down to a point where like Netflix is like, well, we don't need quality content. We just need content. And that's like injuring the people and injuring everything. So these are larger engine systems that we need to be aware of as we're moving forward. And it would be like, oh, it's freedom. Like American government would say, oh, it's freedom. That's why we don't have that. And it's freedom. That's why we don't have that. But we have this huge, huge deficit, and things aren't working. And we have a scary zombie monster as president. Well, that's freedom. Wait a minute. We're going into realms where democracy is not freedom, or the votes are not being counted, um, etc. All right, so when the larger engine system is broken or needs to be overhauled, a monster like Trump will rise up to do that. And so Pan of the Wild, the Green Wolf, is a superhero, the idol, to defeat the sickness and correct what's gone wrong. All right, so but after my first tier, like we were just getting a taste of like this guy as a performer, right? What the energy, feel the energy, feel the moment. And then, because the types of turns I make aren't always great. They're not always right, but sometimes, especially when I'm really lit up, sometimes I make this connection and people are like, man, that can't be scripted. You can't think of that stuff ahead of time. It's because I'm energetic. I'm in the moment. We're all talking. So this is a preview to my first tier where I'm just like boom, 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 film, 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 films. But then the second tier is this whole different other thing where the organics start happening, where people start understanding, oh, there's a location where people are fighting against this problem. They want to go there, or there's opportunities to go there. Of course, we're gonna have to highly regulate that and control it so that we don't have a bunch of hippies rolling in. But so that, I'd be working up to that. And then the third tier is what I was saying is like, okay, now we're talking about a big budget film right before the 2020 election, and we're, basically all the work of the third tier is a lot of profit. Of course, I'm not really, I'm like, oh, I'm like, focusing on my campaign and everything. And, but that's when it's working really well and it's a global phenomenon, and a big budget film right before the election could turn America green. And that's the basic outline of my whole idea. And so I'm here working at the beginning of it with Trey Parker. We want to say solidarity, health. Trey Parker has his own full thing, he's safe, but we're also completing the enzyme and perfecting it for this whole third, this whole plan. All right, so right here at the beginning, and so that's why I was saying like, well, could you help me just getting producing these films that I want to make? Because then I can jump into the when I get the third tier. But I was saying like I'd so much rather like second tier go into the Ware building so that I'm there and people could say, oh, well, where were these films made? And I'm like, oh, hi, here I am. I'm at my location, and then I'm that embraces for like the next level where there's hundreds of people like breathing and working on that area. Yeah. And volunteer workers and stuff like building things, and so it's all like growing up and really exciting for the location, very healthy for that town. Would be vital, a rebirth for that town. It's like the reconnection of healthy function, what with the wiener, and sort of like, and the whole metaphor about that wiener is like very perfect, right? And it is energetic, it is awesome, and it is about South Park going into a next level of what they're doing. Um, but it is not something that will ever cause inconvenience for either Pan or Trey. All right, so what I'm battling against is like the spirit of like, oh, just pay him and then we can ignore this, you know. I want you to just understand that this is more, not, this is not about a personal thing here. What about Greta and these kids protesting? Okay, what about this world? You've watched the world slump and you've watched the politics. Okay, you're responsible for this world, but you can't pin that on me. You're right, I can't. It's only something that you can harness yourself and say, okay, I'll choose to take responsibility for this stuff. Right? I'm not saying that it's Trey's fault if this doesn't happen, but I mean, this is an opportunity. Obviously, if this doesn't happen, it's my fault. Okay. Anyway, so what I was trying to say about a long-term thing, and now here I'm going into something that's on my heart, but you might not recognize. Anyway, when I was little, I remember like whales would beach themselves and like crazy shit would happen. There were animals that were like um, going crazy and eating their young. Like monkeys were tearing themselves each other apart. And there was a lot of things about like it'd be like America's Funniest Home Videos where people are watching their dog like their dog's tail would wag and the dog would like step on it and he'd be like going crazy like chasing his own tail, you know, cats going crazy or whatever. And so this is the difficult thing about being a man who's like, you know, 39 or 49. Okay, because it's a delicate understanding about the interaction of how things are changing. But one of the greatest places where we see where is the energy changing is in the animals. And what I want to say is that I see a huge transformation in the animal community. I've seen evidence, and I know it's just like, well, you know, we're in an age of, you know, cat videos and all this stuff where, you know, the footage of animals has increased. I understand that. I'm on that. But I have seen animals understand English. I've seen animals using like doing things higher capacity than they were able to do before, like using a tool or something. I've seen dogs perform total comprehension of what's going on with their faces and all this stuff. Like they don't have like a dumb expression anymore. Like I literally see an enlightenment amongst the animal community, and this is something that's very slight. This is something that I would talk to with like Miyazaki, and I would say, you know, I'd talk to him and I'd say, you know, I see like a change in the world from the animals. They're acting different. Their cognitive functions are different. They're responding to English with comprehension. And I think the Asians, especially Japanese, would say, oh, the spirit of just the cognitive understanding of the childlike understanding of being like, well, what is it? So the animal, I think, has been liberated or enlightened in a way where they're like, what is being said to me? And they just sort of instantly understand and say, oh, I don't know, you know, and they go off and it's been long, you know, but I have pets and stuff and I understand that they can take commands and stuff, but I'm just saying it's a very gentle thing about an internal thing. You have to be like caring about like how animals speak and stuff, but all right, but man, it's a cataclysmic measurement. I'm just saying that people in their 20s would not be able to recognize what I'm talking about because in their wisdom gauge, and I'm saying this is like a wizard mantle. It's like, do you have the wizard sense of animal language? And most people would say no, or they just simply don't have it. You know. But also with Trey and Matt, which we can talk about, is like, yeah, you guys are talking about like viral videos when it was on VHS, right? So that whole transformation about, you know, use of plastic and media when media went digital and stuff like that, like the tactile feeling, basically the difference between um, you know, photographs, Polaroid photographs that is physical or it's using film and switching over to digital, it's like, oh, it has a different soul. You like it, the people has a different glow. But I don't, and I think it does relate to the element, whether it's film or digital, but it also has to do with the age of men. And like, oh, well, you're seeing like an old car and you're feeling the glow of all the people who've seen it. Yeah, I understand. But there's also on top of that a supreme study of elements and the progress of like global family values, you know, global family occupancy of a planet relating and learning with rocks and elements, oil, plastic, and all this other stuff. So there's like, there's that's what I think is like like people are trying to talk about the smart thing, but it's like there's always this undercurrent of like, oh, that's common sense, but it's not. And so I'm hoping that like, to jack up, people's common sense and be like, oh no, we're the super smart people. Yeah, that would be South Park. And that would be this. This is like a historical shift, whether or not Trey takes on this Halloween episode with me. All right, you understand? That's why it's so cool. And it's like, earlier I was being a little dodgy and being like, you have to be energy. This isn't like I'm after his candy house. It's about this, and I'm trying to get into this, right? But then it's just like what we end up feeling is like we get some sour feelings. And it's just like it's a trial for each of us to get out to like put those sour feelings where they should be, like constructively in the right expression. Like Matt Stone would say to me, like, man, like you're talking to me about Beavis and Butthead. We love you guys. We love our fans, man. You know. So what I'm trying to say is just like I'm not on some weird suspicion about those things. I'm not saying that you guys are like that, right? But it's like, seriously, I'm trying to say all the reasons for why to do this are all there. And this is a perfect idea. Don't let the bitterness of sour feelings and like, uh, I don't personally like this guy or it made me feel weird. Therefore, no. And I mean, in any other case, that would be the appropriate way to make that decision, but not in this one because of Greta. Because of these kids, all right? Because I saw myself, I'm like, oh, I'm presenting to Trey Parker, and it goes like this. But all of a sudden, there's this other thing that happened around me and then Greta's here. Now I have the sharpness. I'm like, I slap it in Matt's face. So you see what Greta's doing? You see what these kids are doing? What I'm talking about is serious, right? And this is the last moment of where we could make the right choice and produce the Green Wolf toy. So how would this be branded? It's not like a South Park. It's not a traditional thing. It wouldn't be Fun Pop, whatever that's called, that little bubbly thing. This would be a different style. I mean, the South Park characters would be round, but whether they're in their Halloween costumes or if we've devised something like a particular, they got like all some props or something. They found something and said, "Oh, this means something," and they turned it into a sword or something, and then it's there with them in the toy. But it really is about like the adults responding to what the kids are demanding, and that's relevant. And that's going to defeat. I almost feel like the Hong Kong protest is like a shadow spiritually, because the Asians are very life as art. It's like a shadow of Greta and the kids protesting for climate change. And so while South Park itself would go like, yeah, China's kind of messed up, see how they're doing weird shit. Like to really put the perfect bullseye and to pinpoint what's relevant and smart is to respond to these kids and congratulate Greta and make the Green Wolf toy. So I don't feel like me on my own has been able to convince the South Park group. But I'm saying like it's the timing, the family of Greta and the rest of these kids said, no, the Green Wolf is our friend. We're really excited to see him. We were very moved by his work and we understood what he was saying. And he's our friend. You can see it in the Ware map. There's a shadow of the Ware building, the South Park Ware and the Beavis Butthead. That's the generation of people who are relevant and grew up with South Park. All right, that's a generation group of people who are like, well, I got married and I got a job and stuff, and yeah, oh, climate change, yeah, yeah, but they can't do that. So this guy Pan, all right, he's like this, weird nature wizard, and he's got all his lights lit up. Like he would, it is common sense to go into that and have a job and do all the kid stuff. But for whatever reason, it didn't hit me that way. Just nature and everything. And so like I am this very powerful maverick. You guys hire me, you guys, be my agent and boom, 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 get me in a situation, produce me. It's going to give you all of this types of resources. Thank you so much, South Park Studios. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Um, so we are, I feel we're at a challenging intersection where like literally like like I was saying, like we're at this deciding like do we or not, like tomorrow's Monday when Trey can actually talk to his group about whether or not we want to talk about Greta and the Green Wolf and do all this. By the way, Trey Parker, of course, if you want to do something with Greta without me, you're free to do that, okay? Once again, the idea here is not, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm riding on the movement of Greta, okay? Because my feeling is that when I began working with Trey Parker as the Green Wolf, this broke something in the manifold, like the men, because there are fractals that are all X. There is a fractal that has all X shapes on it, and you could consider that a ghost blanket for the X chromosome for the women. So the women have a sense of like, what are the men doing, and so they can sense my presence and my behavior or my activity, even though it's not publicly seen. And that's definitely going on. But what I'm trying to say is just like when I started fighting with the Green Wolf robot against the Trash Island, I think that that broke something. And then, it was like a year ago that Greta started to gain power. And this isn't normal stuff, but it wouldn't be normal also to overhaul the American engine. But this is like so that Beavis and Butthead and generation is represented in me. It's like, oh, and I think at trade be like, oh, my boy, he's alive, he's ready to fight, go. And I think Greta's being like that too, and all these kids are being like, hey, my dad's a fighter, he's willing. Hey, he knows better than that. He knows better than that. You guys are stupid. These political people get in this thing, and they're just they're not on it. But they're affecting it. They're causing satellite pollution and causing irreversible damage and not really doing their job. It's not inspirational or anything. Well, that's what they've gotten themselves into. So they need to break out of that with, you know, Pan of the Wild, the Green Wolf as an idol. But it's like the father of all these kids is basically, this 40-something-year-old guy, and it's me. And I was just like, I have my full attention, not distracted by kids or anything, my full attention going at those issues, bum, 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 bum. That's powerful. All right, I can change this thing in a matter of months. Whereas, most people have their responsibilities set for them. And that's part of our family. So I'm just saying, like, okay, so I'm this radical, and Trey Parker is this engine. I'm talking about using our, like, oh, I'll bring this, I'll bring that. Okay, we work together and change the world for the better, always. All right. That's why this is exciting. So that's the presentation, you guys. Thank you so much. I just want to say again, okay, so what I'm here to do right now is, from this morning, I had a meditation. I was like, I need to fight for that where building, which is second option. The first option is the Green Wolf robot and all that with the Halloween episode. And that's number one. But I think that's a lot. I think Trey Parker would be like, I'm just not sure if my friends are into it. Okay, so what I'm saying is like, right now I'm fighting for second level stuff. I'm like, absolutely, I need to get into that where building. If you're gonna produce me, let's get going and help me. I'll need like what, like a couple professionals to go and talk to that guy, professionals who talk to people about property acquisition, and they're ready to give him a check for X amount if he's interested. We just want to go, go, go. We want to get going on that. Okay, so if we can get, so I'm here fighting for that building. And then secondly, I'm fighting for that third tier thing, the Halloween episode, the Green Wolf robot. I just want to say, there's a tremendous, it's like pure love because me and my family, it's sort of, I don't know, like, I guess America would view it as like, he has like a Simpsons family, and it just means a lot to him. You know, People have a way of understanding things, and they'd be completely correct. But like for me, I like to be honest with you, You might have said like, "Oh, it must have been exhausting for you to drive back and forth." Honestly, what wiped me out and what knocked me off my feet was when I realized or had recognition with the name Millie. And I found I was like, "Oh, my wife's name is Millie. Wow." And then I was like I was like passed out for a couple days. I like couldn't think. And I was like, "Oh, like I couldn't." I was like upset and distraught and stuff. So like for me, I'm like, oh, my heaven bride is really like so important to me. It's such an anchorage in a world where I feel like there's a lot of static and well, the way it's presented is weird for the females. Like they're being educated about what they're expected to perform for, um, and I guess I do have like an older fashioned sense of romance and anyway, plan B. So what more can I say about that episode? And like I was saying, like I think Trey is like, yeah, I'm not like really eager to fly you out, you know, that I am a professional and I have my reasons, time frame and stuff. So here it is Sunday. I'm talking about Monday. What can I say about this episode? It'll be like the best South Park episode people have ever seen. It's gonna be hilarious. I mean, Trey's got so many feelings here. Like when we work together, it's gonna be so fucking funny. I was thinking we could do, which is completely something that is not Trey's tradition. But what I was thinking is like we should, like I could do this with like two people. But anyway, open up a one of those animation things where it instantly animates the voice mouth. If I get some South Park characters and then have this as a tablet that we're looking at in different rooms and do some ad lib, and we just have our characters there. And then like I was thinking. Like that would be a fun evening, and people just like laughing because you can actually on the headphones you could hear the sped up version of your voice or whatever. So it's just the kids sitting around, bullying each other or whatever, playing a game or something. And like it would narrow it down to this one thing where uh, something very funny happens and the characters start laughing. Man, people are gonna just bust out laughing there. Stick that into the Halloween episode. Whew, that is a surefire ingredient, man. So it's on my heart, like about the thing that I was talking about animals and stuff, and I was like, Trey, you do have a relevant breadth of technology, being from the 70s, I mean, from the 70s all the way. Um, were you born in '69? Um, I don't know. Anyway, a whole ascension of things that has happened it's completely relevant. And my take as a doctor, as like a spiritual doctor or a professional energy person, I'd say I can almost guarantee you that our celebrities do not receive what should be the stone uh, reward for being a celebrity and a public figure and for doing what you do. I think we're all being mistreated by the system of a down that it's like a anyway, you'd be like, I'm here saying like Trey, you've really helped America have common sense. You've done a great job parenting this family. And Trey would be like, well, the way you talk about it, I wouldn't know about it because that's not how I feel, Buster. How you take, what do you think about that? I struggle with a lot of big feelings, and it's not easy. It's not easy for me. All right. I respect that, and I'm here I'm here with my heart beating. I value myself more than anything else. This is, it's very big dedication for me, right? It's a lot of work. This is the opus of my life, and I'm seeing like the shatters in my life, little memories and deja vu, where I'm like, oh, and I remember stuff, and it has to do with this. It has to do with how important this is, and so I'm fully dedicated to this Halloween episode. I want to talk about it, but I want to talk about love. Okay, my family just brings that unabashed love. And with South Park, we're just really excited to see what Trey Parker invents and how that's going to happen. You've seen how I operate, and you understand that in a writing room, Pan will have lots of ideas, man. He's just always full of ideas, and he has a different way of thinking about it, and then it comes out like this, you know. And that's what we look for in a creative adjunct if we're going to hire someone, right? And this is unusual because I'm approaching Trey, and it's not that Trey's like, you know, okay. But like I've been like this heavy wizard scientist, and I'm researching things and trends and all and stuff. And my thing is from 1980 up to you know 2025, right, and beyond. Um, or yeah, I suppose you could say present day. But I want to leave space for my psychic premonition about what's going on here. But I'm just saying that Trey is a slightly different character witness for the man speed about the the pace of technology and everything. It's really interesting. And so like what I'm seeing is like it really is important to take these kids seriously, Greta and the global change, climate change, and like I hope to be really good friends with Greta in the future. I think it'd be the Ware building. Oh well, there's we just opened up a can of beans. She's like, what? Holy shit! Of course, these kids, seeing the green wolf and the pageantry. Holy shit! It's like magical for these kids, and it's a place where adults can get serious and talk about stuff. But we want this change. And it's so difficult to see the way it is, and because Greta's father is with her often in performances, and he'll be like, the way he behaves is so telltale. But obviously, Greta has this effect in her family. They've all changed their lifestyles and stuff. It's amazing. But the way he does reference it, it's very like diminutive or of like she's saying something that's good and isn't that it's actually like, whoa, holy smoke, Greta, you're a global sensation. This is amazing. You're a princess of the world. You're a phenomenon. You're awesome. And that stifled parent I was talking about, like the 30, 40 something m- men who and like I was saying, the kids are like, my dad knows better. You government guys, you stupid. And they are. They're in a zonk. They're hypnotized. Um, but just giving those guys the edge where they can be a little bit more advanced and combative and be like, hey, we're not going to take it anymore. That's not okay. And it's just like way too many convenient smiles, conjovial interviews between that and like chaperone style. And like, man, it's just like, and we get this like magical space where there's some like unicorns that pass through intermittently, and some people are in vampire suit and they're just sort of there all the time. And like goth artists are hanging out with me. I've collected like a bunch of crows have come and nested here, and I give them food and free shelter. I'm just like, yeah, you guys. Anyway, it's just a sort of ambiance, right? And then I'm in my filming and working and stuff in my studio. And like someone like Greta, like she comes by and she stays with us for a week, and she has these magical encounters. She makes friends, and then we clip the highlights, and that's part of a movie. It's part of this. She performed in VR. We made her own avatar. We had a whole thing set up for her. Remember my thing about surprise birthday parties? We keep doing that. We have like someone over and celebrate them, but also then talk about issues. We go to a place. There's tears. People are saying emotionally, like, I've always felt that like we're all here for that, and that's why that needs to change. That's how what's going to do. It's a huge initiative. It's big for the kids to have that location. They can go and have a magical experience. Then when other people see it, it's like a huge relief. Or we finally are going to do something for Greta, the princess, to confirm that we're witnesses of adulthood. We're men in charge of the world. That's how we overhaul the American engine, is by being the men who are in charge of the world. And we are. And that's the excitement I'm talking about. So it begins with this Halloween special. This jettisons my character way up, and I've gotten like the seal approval from Trey Parker. Whoa. And then it follows through with the Green Wolf toy. And that all while that's happening, I'm developing in the Ware building, and I'm building. And then by the time people have already, have the Green Wolf robot and they're all doing this, I'm already close to like the second tier of my plan. And like I was saying with Trey, is like right now we're at this like very early place where if we do the Halloween episode, it's like all of this. But if we do this thing down here, if you just say you send me a small relief check and then I start get started, it's just like it cuts out like so much because we lose the Halloween episode, the toy people. Like I want to get people toys, but you guys are situated right now. You can absolutely get them a toy that has the game in it or whatever. Man, it's so perfect. So I'm trying to spark like the alignment here. Trying to talk about. You guys see this? Like I'm just soaking in it right now. I'm just like, oh yeah, feels so good. I mean, let's act like brum, brum, da, 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 let's get that South Park engine rolling, and absolutely smash this thing out of the park. Like I'm sensing from the last two episodes of Trey that he's feeling a little upset, man. Let's knock that out of the park. That's the point, is to make South Park make Trey Parker happy and give Trey Parker invisible rewards. And it's like the men in the world have never responded appropriately to Greta. And this has never happened before. It's all a whole bunch of never before stuff. All right, sorry. Let's bring it back here. So, I mean, I have to get going and I have responsibility to perform and start, changing my focus where I'm actually talking to the people instead of this thing where I'm asking for production. Um, and that's pretty important. But it really is important if you do the second thing and actually give me quite a bit of investment money overhead, we go into that where buildings. Man, that's a close second. I can pull that off. I could work, 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 and then we pull it back like this. But the sort of I don't know. Yeah, totally. I get it. The whole energy, like the South Park connection and all that, it's all way up there. And like the third tier thing with the toy and the Halloween episode, like basically that helps everything. And it helps Trey and Matt to feel like this guy, as a creative mind, has brought us this thing which will bring potentially already a huge amount of income. And so we're like, oh, cool. Like we're happy to invest with him and partner with that with the bank loans and all and get him situated. And he starts working away at that. So it chips away at the problem from both sides. Instead of just flat out like, oh, I'm just gonna keep grinding away and putting my soul into South Park. It's heavy. And then and bleed and pay you all this money. Oh yeah, sure, that's gonna happen. It gets bled out to the point where like, no, I'll probably be like, maybe he'll help you get out of debt so that you can do whatever you want. And that's just so lame and weak. And I have to say, like the last two episodes of South Park, man, Trey's been sharpening his blades. So who the fuck cares if he's upset or angry or whatever, or that there was upsetting themes in it? It doesn't matter. I agree. I feel and I see very strongly that Trey has been sharpening his blades for precisely this opportunity, man, of the Halloween episode, just to blow people away. Like Trey's going to bat, going bum bum bum, and he's already fighting, and he's got some skulls on his shelf. All right, so I'm just saying, it's like the next thing is this like amazing amount of energy and heightened senses. Please, you guys, fly me out to California, set me up in an apartment. I'd love to stay with you. Oh, I'd love to stay with you for that whole season. I'd be like itching to get back here and work on renovating the building over there. But it's also something I might be able to do with my cell phone, and my friend Brent could be managing some stuff. Oh, clean that up, get that mold out of there, make that watertight, get some new bathrooms in here and here. Okay, send me a picture of that. It's like a lot of. It's gonna be all of that. That's what it's gonna be for like a month. So I really am available to work with you guys on the next season of South Park. All right, and I don't see anything that's broken here. But again, we got those sour feelings. I'm like, oh, don't talk about me. Don't say that those episodes were bad. Whatever. All right, don't. So what I'm seeing is this almost like, and as a professional communicator, I understand. But I'm talking to Trey and I'm asking for this publication. So I talk about the sour talons And Cherry said, well, there's a disposition when you're talking to everyone. You have to cradle the baby and bring it up. And oh, there it is. It's funny, and you're laughing. Go, be free. I get it, you guys. I do. And I will be working that energy when I'm working with people. But what I think we need to be aware of is a more sinister tone of adulthood. What is it that's haunting the men and making them act like a bunch of undesirables? Right? This is beneath us. All this behavior is crazy and it makes me feel stupid, right? I mean, you're watching the news and it's berating us and it's harmful to children directly, immediately, and into the future. And the kids are protesting it and they're demanding that you stop doing crime to them. So we have to be parental and raise that up. So Trey and I are in the plan B phase of our relationship, and Trey says, I love it, man. This is so much better than before. And I was dealing with a lot of weird feelings that were coming up. This is way more professional, more strict. Okay. And so I'm on that page with you guys. I'm sorry if we made if I created upset feelings. I do apologize to you guys. But I'm a warrior, and I'm fighting to change the big problem with adults. And that's part of my journey as a person growing, and I have to mature as a person also. So this hour-long Halloween episode is going to be a classic. I can already hear the commercials on Comedy Central for it. People, hour-long Halloween. People are like, oh, and then they get parties, people getting together because they want to watch it together. That's gonna knock their socks off, man. And anything Trey can figure out is pull apart bread. So this green wolf, he awakens and it's just terrifying and smashes out and attacks the trash island. And I swear, I do see that this episode can work without Greta. And I was thinking like energy. With energy, you understand, it would be so perfect for Greta because then you have this romance theme of like Stan and Greta being like Stan's like, "Oh, you can do it, Greta. Go ahead, try, give it a try." And then and she does her thing and hollers, instead of like crying at Congress or giving a speech. She just goes ahead and she just said, fuck that climate or whatever. Oh, we get her to say, but it might be like an impasse. Like Trey's like, I can't, we can't reach her. We tried, or she's not available. They would look down on me for that. I mean, she just got the key from Quebec. I mean, it's not, all right, all right, all right. But we're the adults, we're the men. So we got to make the big decision here, you guys. All right, I'm sorry. I'm trying to say, I swear that I don't know why. In me, my feeling is that Trey is like, I mean, you're talking about like bringing in all this stuff, bringing Greta. It's just like that's not what we do in South Park. All right, I'm sorry. So I swear that this Halloween episode works perfectly without doing the Greta thing. I'm just trying to say, like, I'm not thinking that I had convinced you guys to work with me. All right, but it's just like, while it's we're heading towards South Park will not produce them. All of a sudden, there's this other incline of this thing with Greta and these kids going like climate change, boom, boom, every Friday. All right, and that's a force to be reckoned with. That needs to change your opinion. Oh, it's not about a funny feeling with this guy. It's about our relationship with America and being responsible, cognizant. Yes, no, pain, pleasure, like common sense. Seriously. All right. So anyway, I swear that this episode can work without the credit. I had it in my mind. I was just like, oh, that's so cool. But whatever. It's not the critical thing. The critical thing for me is that my description of the function of the Green Wolf robot. And then on their level of their perception, they're causing the climate change to happen. Because there's little funny things that are in the person that is the resident. When they make that contest and they say, yeah, Green Wolf, awaken and destroy that problem, they're voting. And that's when we begin to defeat the Electoral College and we're, reprising the monetary system, all this stuff. So the hero of the Green Wolf, just uh, all around him, his aura is curative. I was thinking I was thinking about I was like I literally can't figure out how in my presentation how would the adults go into the attic in VR but also what would happen physically? Does it evolve into a physical transition that then they switch to XR and then they're sitting around and talking and doing XR? I'm not sure. I don't know. That part's a mystery because obviously, if she's in the attic in VR and they have to go into VR to understand her programming, because she's the one programming the Green Wolf, she's programming. There's a bunch of robots in the building, and the Halloween twins have their own projects, and they're basically tinkerers, and they work when they're experimenting with robotics and AI and stuff, and they're trying to figure out these things. But that, of course, opens up this whole conversation about the newest and latest cutting edge equipment of XR board games, and about what that could be used for. And that opens up this thing about Trey having an opportunity to speak lucidly through South Park, the animation medium where visually a lot of information is communicated, and that bypasses the problem of programmers and hiring this thing. You can just have a completed vision, you see it visually, and it's just sort of amazing and alive. One thing we could experiment with the South Park animation brand is changing the viscosity of the layers to cause a transparent fade, which would increase the ghostly look of things. And we're talking about like layers that are shaded. Um, and that's a way to get into like liquidy or VR sensations of mist and stuff like that. But I think it's so perfectly zen. I'm really interested in paper cutouts. Those laser printers that cut out on paper and then you have a stencil. That came out and that went right under the radar. Well, that's a stencil printer. Okay, that just that just happened and it's just gone. And I want one, and they're like for $100. You can get like a dee dee dee, and it cuts out. I'm like, if I had that when I was in my 20s, I would have been all over the place with that. um, because I was a studio artist and all this stuff. Anyway, all right, you guys. All right, so this is the thing about this episode. What I'm excited about, honestly, is like I'm not. It's like I get to a place where I feel like I've thought about it enough, and I just like I said, it's like I haven't figured out the transition of like how did I speak with the Millie of the attic? How does that work? Like it just sort of like, yeah. But it is this pull apart bread where I speak about like, oh, that's perfect. That is perfect. And what I'm really excited about and the love that I have that I'm bringing in, that is my family, is sort of like I'm excited to see what Trey would invent with the pull apart bread, and he'd be like, oh, doo-doo-doo, and like make something happen. And because there's a huge gap about the adventure. Okay, so we want to do something like some sort of adventure where the boys go on an adventure, something a little bit dangerous, something even a little bit spooky, and then they celebrate Halloween in the glow that sort of completes with the awakening of the Green Wolf robot. And then this, violent execution of the Trash Island, which is just like, oh yeah, just a pure win. All right, you guys, so let's try to bring it together like that so we understand the project. So, work, yes, we are willing to do work, all right? This um, you guys are full tilt ready to make this episode. This Green Wolf robot, huge profit margin. Great opportunity to give people interactive toy, which is about defeating the bad climate change. It's also spiritual energetic to help people have a better lifetime, have more luck, basic common sense thing. To do this with millions of people, of course, is a huge shock and would help to transform our world towards the better. So absolutely, it's that's what I bring as a designer, and that's what I'm excited to present to you guys. Is the Green Wolf robot that, of course, is big business, and you guys can keep as much of that profit as you want. Just simply give me the production with the overhead, and I'm good to go. And we'll go. Okay, I'm really energetic to do this work, you guys. I love you so much. I am singular, that I'm the first spark of this light. Please, produce the voice of the Green Wolf. It's an underrepresented genre of the common sense that I sling. And I just really appreciate you. I feel like this presentation, I feel like is a B. I'm leaving it open for you, Trey, to have an epiphany where you're filling in the blanks and you're having your own profound orientation. And I do consider you my friend, Trey. And I'm on the edge. I'm thinking like, I'm like literally like, okay, tomorrow's Monday. Like I'm on the edge where it's like, I understand you're making this decision. I wanted to be there and make this presentation to you and communicate that, my passion for the buildings in the Ware map. And it would be like, because remember, I found that location as like, oh, this is where I want to build my thing. And then I scanned out and I saw the South Park image in the map, which made me go like, oh, this is it, this is it. And that was weird. But I'm trying to say is like, I think, some people would be like, well, if you could afford it, where would you choose to build your location? I'd say on this Ware map right here. It's perfect. It has everything I need to expand and grow it. It has a little river there. It would be good for this town. The town solves thousands of little problems. Uh, like it's not like it would be better to just build something in the middle of nowhere. That's not true. It's gonna be the best location for it is on that Ware map, and I'm in love with it, and it's definitely there. Um, and I'm so grateful. All right, you guys, I'm trying to bring it together like we're having a moment. Oop. All right, let's have a. Oh fuck, the Green Wolf robot. Um, Such a very basic idea, so perfectly animated by South Park animation brand. And I'm really excited to challenge your animators and to give them some storyboards. I can draw storyboards. Yeah, I'm very good at that. And challenging them with certain sequences, which is why I was like, oh, please, I would like to be working with you even before that. Fly me in, Trey, as soon as you can, please. I'm really eager to do that work. And oof, I mean, you might even see like I have a job for you, or Trey might be like, I have something for you actually. I'm saying yes, please, let's go. I also I would like to just keep talking with you right now. It's just a very good feeling, Trey. All right. So it's about you know small talk or pleasantries or getting around in our life. I am very difficult person, I guess, but I bring it down to this thing like the Green Wolf robot. Visually, it's perfect. Perfect holiday episode. People are going to enjoy this. This is, for adults, they don't get to go trick or treating anymore. Halloween is now, a thing where they might just be watching TV with their friends. Okay, so it's an opportunity to give the adults a Halloween, lift them up, and do the responsible thing with the Greta movement. And I think there are like hot pockets, like I said, like I touched on something like a hot stove, where I was like, oh, I'd like to have Greta over, and oh, she'd see like the Green Wolf is there, and he's talking with her and asking her questions and considering it, and then she's able, to do other things. There's activities and different groups and stuff, and she has some of her friends are with her, and they're like, enjoying the cafeteria and playing in the river or whatever. I mean, like I like touch on that. And I'm like, oh, well, you should understand. That's why. That's why. Okay, that's the second tier of my plan. And my plan, first tier, second tier, third tier, all of that is either based on the Green Wolf robot or high level production. Like Trey's like, oh, I'm ready to to put a lot of money on that. But it's just like, if we could work with him, we get to know him, all this stuff, and yeah, get the paperwork signed. I mean, seriously. But seriously, please fly me out. I really, I want to spend time in California. It's just sort of like the feeling of me like living in California is all. I think that's what died. It's like I'm more like pretty much anchored about this weird buildings and like this feeling that we develop and it changes the world and it's awesome. So there are these like, oh, hot, like Like there's a reason why all of this makes sense, but you kind of have to have it in your intuition. Uh, and for example, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but also the chi level is going to be rising up, and all of a sudden there's going to be an epiphany where it's like, oh, I have the perfect inspiration and reason to write the script for the Europe connection. Remember, I was talking about connecting with Japan and then connecting with Europe, and Trey Parker would be like, yeah, because when you mentioned that before, it's just like, what, like, but it's part of the authenticity. If Trey and I make this Green Wolf robot toy, and then even people in Europe are buying the South Park collection to awaken their own Green Wolf robot. See, even in Europe or whatever, but the opinion and the image of Trey Parker and South Park is rising up, getting to the point where Trey and I can do like, serious bucket list stuff. Like, dude, I want to sassafras these British people, and I want to speak Japanese to these to Japan. Like serious man stuff of the only like some 39 or 49-year-olds would understand, right? But as the world ages, we don't want to just let it like drop off, but we want to perfect it and lift it up and be like, oh, that was we, because that's our backyard. Whereas for these kids, they've got a whole other collection of why, like going from a touch tablet to VR dating or whatever, in public is a big deal, as the transition or whatever it is that they discover, right? Oh man. And I feel like I want to give that push to our generation. It feels a little bit slumpy. It feels a little draggy, and I just want to break that off and be the most that I can be. And so I understand Mother Nature sharpening me for this event. Like I fit right into that, like a social need or something. Um, anyway, so you know, investing in the Green Wolf robot and doing that, the toy and all this, it's just like it opens up this whole thing where you're like, oh, I can anticipate that I would have really huge inspiration levels for even making a British crowd crack up laughing and just destroy them, with our American humor. Um, and that levels out the karma. I had the same thing with the input where there was really good British entertainment and that really influenced us, and then a lot of anime and a lot of cool stuff from Miyazaki or whatever, and just like both of those things became, and then I'm a studio artist, and then I'm growing in all this, and then here we are. But to sort of like satisfy that is part of like an invisible value for men to like transcend, and then you're a larger and larger king. This is the sort of thing I work on. Um, so I've done the internal work on my identity, and I've also done social work with Batman, South Park, and The Simpsons. This is to sort of it's sort of like the detection of a man in his lifetime, where I'm psychically sensing like I'll tell myself, yeah, work with Batman. This will be important later. And like when I'm in it, I hardly understand what I'm doing. But then, oh, that can be, you know, uh, that that is exactly what's needed for this entire embargo, which is for me running for president. Oh my gosh, it's this huge thing. It's weird. So, but also I see like in the news, like when Greta rose up, and then there's just this moment when Trey Parker thought like, oh, I need to take this seriously. What is going on? What's he saying? And there's this. I look at the news. There's also like this calm. There's like a calm and a hush, and like the fiasco feels different. It's not like this is the biggest news in the world. It's like it's deflated, but it's also like it has a name or something. And so like I think that what we're doing is already like timeline, like because the rest of the people are all psychic. And so they can sort of feel like the approach of the green wolf. So, but it's determined on your hand trade, which is why I was saying armor up from within, protect yourself from the narwhals. Like Harry Potter talks about, invisible fairies and sprites that try, to try to shake your hand at an important time. And so me doing this presentations is about, blasting through all that negativity and coming through to a resolve. So the Green Wolf robot, and absolutely, I would like to be. I'm applying for that job for this season of South Park. Trey, go ahead. Don't feel bad. Fly me out. Set me up over there, and you can, and we'll, just the way you like it, Trey. Please. Um, and for me, it's like Trey will continue to be my spirit animal for the rest of my career, for the rest of my life. Okay, Trey's going to work with me, produce me, and when I'm up there and working and talking about different groups and stuff, and then there's the South Park thing, all these guys are really going to help you out. And I would have Zen art circles, cool stuff. There's a really good, and this and that. And it's just like on my heart is that Trey Parker actually came through for me. All right, and that's going to be something that I'm going to treasure for the rest of my eternity. And it's important, man. And it's like it's intense for me. It's real. But it's all, it does come down to you, Trey, about you making that decision. Tomorrow's Monday. So, I'm asking you to make that call and just be like, you know, I've decided to produce the Green Wolf. You guys need to do XYZ. Let's go. And that's how it is. All right. Thank you so much, Trey Parker. I love you guys. I love you, Matt Stone. I love you, South Park Studios. I love you guys. Seriously. It's a fresh new day and it's a fresh new prescription. Like what's going on and what is it and all this. And we're inventing it and we are responsible for it. And so, we want to do it in the right way. That means that the stuff that we've earned maintains Gringotts or, Wizard Bank. Like we need to have our rewards safe. And that's the security that goes on. And those are sort of the invisible problems that we might be having is that, our karmic award system, which is like the apple that leads the horse, so we're all psychic. If that's being interfered with, that would cause a reason why the men are polluting as a word of nature, because they are fire chaos people working with stones and rocks and basic stuff. So when they start burning oil, they're saying, I am depressed, I am depressed, I am being mistreated. Okay, and that was like what I was saying with the animals, like they were like protesting, and then they started to have like, oh, I can see again. It's hard to grasp, but of course the animals can't see it in the breath of their generations. They just like puff along. So it's for the garden master to witness it and understand and, do the calculation here and figure it out. All right. So what I was trying to say is that the Green Wolf robot is literally the device that cures the hidden behind the curtain problem that is the reason why the men were polluting in the first place. Okay, so it starts on South Park, the very cure to defeat the actual behind the curtain problem. And then people literally, after it's been uh, rendered by the prescription of people's vision, so the actual like crystalline fairy, like angel spark plug that actually makes this thing happen, because we've all agreed that's the only thing the story says, is that it's this thing that it only awakens when it has the cure to cure that problem. Okay? So it does that. So it renders it on the perception of South Park, and then when people have it as a toy, we're perfecting plastic. We're making up for we're using oil correctly, properly, and this is going to lead to us to eliminate burning oil because that's not good for the sky. Um, so that's what I'm talking about, like being a king and being conscious about stuff and understanding what people are saying and responding and being the best we can be. It's an opportunity for Trey, and I'm this really intense wizard, and Trey and I are just like this, some brothers in the realms of, we showed up. So watch out, it's awesome. I don't know. I'm in love with that romance about the camaraderie of like generations and stuff. And it's important that we communicate and then be the strength of it and push off the things that try to slow us down and hold us back. So I'm this sort of, powerful, designer, and I'm talking about see how this is, but it is lined up to defeat the problem that the men were having, to set them free, and then these kids can have a cleaner tomorrow. Thank you, South Park Studios. Thank you, Trey Parker. All right, for the greatest possible lifetime. Is good.